So we've been talking about addictions and how they can keep us in a tight grip and keep us separated and disconnected from God and others, and some of these struggles in these core beliefs that we wrestle with in the space that we can't, we won't, we shouldn't talk about it, and how that leads to us trying to be self-sufficient, self-protectant, self-reliant, that ultimately deepens the wound. Today we're going to put a little bit of skin on what we've been talking about with addictions and bring in a life-change testimony, a story of a brother struggling with gambling and what that looked like in his recovery process. Well, welcome to Celebrate Recovery Official. This is a podcast that shares life change, stories, courage, hope, and leadership wisdom, all centered around the Beatitudes and the Celebrate Recovery principles, where Jesus helps us to, one by one, take our hurts, hang-ups, and habits to Him, and ultimately those broken relationships, so that we can live out His plan for our life, so we can walk in freedom the way He intended for us in our life. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with drugs and alcohol and perfectionism. My name is Rodney. I'm the Global Field Director with Celebrate Recovery. And welcome. So glad that you're back with us today. I'm excited about putting some skin on this topic of addictions that we've been talking about on previous podcasts. If you want to go back and listen, we've done a couple different podcasts on this, and I want to just bring a life change story of a trusted brother in Christ. I'm so excited that you get to hear from my brother and just hear a glimpse of his story. And so with that, I want to introduce Terri. Terri, well, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thank you, Rodney. It's good. It's good to be here. It's always good to see your smiling face.
Thanks, brother. Well, why don't you introduce yourself the way you do in CR, and we'll jump into a conversation, man.
I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with relationship issues, gambling, and my name is Terri.
Hey, Terri. So glad you're here, man. And we've gotten to know each other over the years, and just love your heart. And even more, I love I see Jesus in you, and it's so cool to watch God not wasting the hurts in your life. But Terri, as I was saying, we've been talking about addictions and just some of those kind of internal struggles that we have in that space. And so I'd love to jump in, and I appreciate you just bringing some life to this conversation for those that might be struggling with gambling. And I love that you added relationship issues, because sometimes with addictions, we find that there is kind of this web that we realize there's other things connected with that. But your presenting problem was gambling. And tell me how you came to that place of understanding that the gambling would be your source of escaping pain. As we've talked on a previous podcast, just we're trying to fill that emptiness and that void inside of us. When did gambling become your way of running and escaping, filling that void inside your heart, Terri?
Well, background is I'm the youngest of four children. My mom and dad were married for over 60 years before my dad transitioned. The gambling piece is one where if I go back to when I was single-digit ages, that my dad and my mom would have poker parties at the house. And I'd see folks over there all the time playing poker and gambling. I didn't look at it as gambling. They were just playing cards with me with money on the table. Didn't really know what was going on with it. And as I got older, it was something that it was a game. It was fun. It was something that it was exciting to be into that mix. And I guess when I thought about our conversation today, it's an ever learning process that goes on, is that you really want to know what your why is. And you asked me the why part. And I think nobody ever told me that it could be addictive. So, or that there was something not wrong with it, but it could be addictive. It's not just a game. And when you need money and you have money and you're trying to make more money and you're never satisfied with what you have, if you're a competitive person, you try to gamble because it's competitive, not that you're losing or winning. And in my case, I'd never win enough. And in the case of losing, you lose until you knew that you couldn't afford to do it anymore. And there was a point in my life where, as I got older, we played the horse races and we'd go to the dog tracks, and I never gambled on sports or anything like that. But there was a time when you and I met, that I had gone through a series of relationships that were not working out well, marriages that didn't work. And my escape was to go to my happy place, which was at the poker table. And I could sit around and just be by myself. I never gambled with anybody. So when I'd go to the casinos, I'd always go alone. And it was one where it was just me and the cards. I would tell folks I think I told you, that I was having a relationship with 4 queens. And that's what I would look for, was 4 queens. And it got to the point where it was never one where I was going to lose my job or I was ever late for work, or I lost my car or house or something to gambling. But it got to a point once where I was going through I lost my job and I needed some money, and I was in the process of getting ready to get married, and gambling ended up being my income.
Your strategy. Yeah.
And that was it. And it was, and you don't put God, and God not a poker dealer, but the adversary had it where there were some times I would go to the casino and I would win a lot of money, and then I'd pay off my bills, but I was never satisfied. I'd think, okay, if I won now, I could go back and win again. And
wow,
it didn't work, and I had to stop. And I really just had to stop.
Yeah.
And
and Terri, that's so good. I'm so glad you're saying that, because that's true with any addictions. We talked about this on a prior podcast, but we start to, that narrative of, as long as I'm in control, I won't get hurt, right? And so that feeling of chasing that high again, right? But that high is not enough. And I love that you said that, because even though you were winning at this part, and it wasn't always like that, but you were winning, it felt like, oh man, this is great, but it never was satisfying, is what I hear you saying. You needed more, and you keep one-upping, and we see that with all addictions, but that's fascinating. So now it's become your strategy. You knew it could work, and even though it wasn't working, your mindset, and the adversaries you will put here, is he would convince you that just try harder and you'll accomplish that. You'll get that same success or high or rush that you once experienced. Is that right?
Yeah. And knowing God, and the way the adversary tries to sneak in is that I would compare myself to other people that were at the casino or gambling, and their problem is much bigger than mine. They're just out there. They don't have a home. They're homeless. They don't, they're just out there begging for money from people. And I knew when to stop, but I didn't know when to stop going. And so it was never a trait where I'd had to go every Wednesday, every Thursday, if I got the feeling to go, I'd go. And then I'd just keep playing and playing and playing.
A lot of control in that.
The big thing was that it was, and I still struggle with it. Don't get me. It's never over. Whether it's a scratch-off ticket or whether it's
Yeah.
I don't bet on, like I said, I don't bet on sports or anything. But the poker, the gambling, with the cards, and there's only certain games I'll play. I don't play where somebody can mess up my hand or do something with that. I have to be the one making the decision, and it's me. And if I lose, I lose. And when you don't go with somebody, then you don't have any accountability to anybody but yourself. Yeah. And it's something where it's my like I said, my mom gambled, my dad gambled, my sisters like to go to the casino.
Yeah.
You have to be able to realize that when you have to stop, you just have to stop.
Yeah.
And you just don't pull into the parking lot anymore. You don't go for you cut out the mailings, you cut out the things.
Yeah. So Terri, I love, and thank you for your vulnerability. At what point did it become, and I love your kind of getting to that, you just don't go play in those neighborhoods anymore, right? But at what point did you realize, hey, something's off here? I mean, just so as we talked prior that, this really is a problem. It seems like the harder I try to fix this, the worse it gets. At what point did you realize this is off and this isn't working? I need to try something else. What was the revelation for you?
The revelation is when you realize that gaming is a business, just like liquor stores are a business and cigarettes are a business. And you have to know that you can only do so much before it becomes addictive. And if you don't have the money to do it, you have to stop. And that's when I realized that I took some jobs that I wasn't getting paid a lot of money, but it was paying the bills, so I didn't have money to go. So I realized it was time to just stop. And when you get to the point where you lose sleep, I was never an alcoholic. I just liked that rush. And so where I found my escape was when I went to CR. And in CR, I was able to admit the things that I was going through. And when you have to talk about it to somebody else and they hold you accountable for it, that's when you have to be the bigger person and know that you just can't keep saying the same things over and over again because somebody's going to call your bluff.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And I've had some good friends like yourself and some great friends in Northwest Arkansas that really helped me understand that there's different ways if you need money that you can get it. Not that gambling is not a legitimate, it's not illegal, but it's not the best. They're in it to make money. And I could work just as hard and make money and do what I need to do.
Yeah, and I think it's good just to note this too. On the inside, in this place of insanity, on the inside, it's really this addiction is just a trained response of what's going on. So we feel like it's the only possible choice that there is. But on the outside, it has to look like insanity. And in Celebrate Recovery, we talk about insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So I would imagine people close to you, were they aware of this insanity? And in your mind, it's like, this is the only possible choice, to stay in this place of addiction. Were people around you starting to recognize this insanity?
No. No, because it was me. I kept it to myself. And if I ever went to the casino with somebody, I would not gamble the way I would normally gamble. And if I would stop when I was with someone, if I was either winning too much or losing too much, I'd stop and say, let's go get something to eat and let's go home or let's do this and let's keep moving. It was when I went by myself. And then when I started telling my story at CR, which is why we need to start a CR here in Dover, Delaware. That it was one where nobody knew, And they'll know now. We're on this podcast, but I don't have a problem talking about it because it's me.
Yeah.
And I've grown from it, and I'm a different person than I was 10 years ago. I never hurt anybody with my gambling. I never took anybody else's money and gambled with it. It was mine.
Yeah.
It was the money that I had. I never borrowed money to go gamble. That wasn't it.
That's good, man. Well, I want to take a quick break. Thank you just for your heart thus far. It's been gone so fast. It's so riveting. I love just your transparency. But I want to take a quick break right here. I'm talking with Terri, who's just telling us about just the power of Jesus Christ, helping him to face his addictions with gambling and even some of those other roots. I want to turn the corner when we come back from a break and talk about what that healing process. He's already mentioned Celebrate Recovery, but I want to talk about what that looks like as he began to work the principles of Celebrate Recovery. So stick with me and we'll continue the conversation with my brother, Terri. Hey friends, if you're looking for a safe place to process your hurts, hangups, and habits, please don't delay. We've got ministries all across the globe, and we would love for you to be a part of this. I think there's close to 35,000 Celebrate Recoveries, and all you got to do is go to celebraterecovery.com/CR groups, type in your zip code, and join us on this journey we call recovery. Don't try to face whatever that is. Maybe you're battling an addiction. Don't try to face this on your own. There's people that are willing and able and want to walk with you and especially point you to the one and only higher power, Jesus Christ, to help you face whatever that is. CelebrateRecovery.com for more information to find a group near you. Welcome back. Talking with Terri. He's having a great conversation around addictions. And Terri, right before the break, we were just talking about you did a good job of hiding that. And it's interesting just thinking about how we start buying into this, that I'm in control. I can manage this hurt, this problem, this pain on my own. I don't need any help. If I can just keep people at bay, everything will be okay. But at some point that kind of came down and just shattered. So you connected with a brother and you're kind of reaching for a life preserver, help. My life's unmanageable, which is a great and difficult place to be in recovery. But so tell me about that process of getting to Celebrate Recovery. What was that like as you're trying to battle this gambling addiction in your life?
So it happened when I came to the closest time to really being addicted. I was at the poker table at a casino, and I was out of my job. Wasn't working. I had lost my job, and what I would normally do in the mornings would go pick up my girlfriend, fiance at the time, son, and because the school bus wouldn't pick him up where we were living, and I would pick him up and take him to school. Well, I was at the table and I was winning, and I just kept winning. And she called me, and you can't answer your phone while you're at the table. And I didn't answer the phone, and I just could, because I was winning and I didn't want to stop. And I had to eventually just get up. The sun was coming up. I had to rush to her house, and she was backing out of the driveway, getting ready to take her son to school, which is what I was supposed to do. And I pulled up. I said, "I'm here." He got in the car. I took off and took him to school, and it led to a huge argument about where was I. And her thought was that I was out cheating, and I was with another woman, and that's why I couldn't answer the phone. And I finally had to say, that's not where I was. I was at the casino gambling, and I could not answer the phone because you can't pick up. And that just didn't fly. And it led to a really big argument. And I had to reevaluate what the priorities were. And so I got introduced I went to another gentleman who called you, who ended up, we got together, and then the rest is history. I've just been going and going and going and trying to get it together. And in my perfect no, have I been back to a casino? Yes. Do I do it as much as for what I was doing it before? No.
Yeah.
But I can go for years without going to a casino.
Yeah. So before we go there, I want to just highlight something you said, because I think it's so important that addictions tend to do this, that here's this place where, and I've heard this said before, that the opposite of addiction is connection. And
Yes.
It's so fascinating that when you had to make a decision right there, the addiction said, whatever that connection is that's trying to get your attention, it's not as important as what's in front of you. And
Right.
and the addiction took over, right? That's that
Yes.
response to something happening inside of me that says, this is more important. This is going to satisfy you. This is going to fulfill the need that you have in this very moment more than any relationship in your life, which is a big lie. And they just send all these consequences and ramifications. So I just want to highlight that because I think it's so important. I love that you just articulated that. So you come to that realization, oh no, this is creating havoc. You reach out to a brother. You walk through the doors of Celebrate Recovery. I just want to kind of lean into that, Terri. What was that like to come into the doors of Celebrate Recovery? Of course, you and I sat down and visited prior and kind of unpacked what that might look like. But you walk through the doors of Celebrate Recovery, I'm guessing not feeling real good about yourself and your life and in your circumstances. Let us into your heart. What's that place like for Terri in that first visit, man?
I didn't know how I felt. And that's the problem sometimes is you want to think that, okay, I'm supposed to feel some way that, am I going to jump out the window? Am I going to go drink a bottle of alcohol? What's supposed to, and I knew I was always grounded in God. And when I walked in that room, the first time when I was at the out in Springdale, it was, God was there. And he was there talking to me. And it was, again, sometimes you feel, I think I told you I grew up with 3 older sisters, so I was alone a lot because they were gone. And my mom and dad were working. So I spent a lot of time alone. And when you do that, you can talk to people for a long time and then you can go home.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about being around people. Well, that's how I felt that night, is that I was there. There were a lot of people around me. They didn't know me. I didn't know them, but God was there. And I could hear your voice. You were talking, and it was, Rodney's making a lot of sense here. And he's hitting the points. And then we had the breakout sessions and the smallest groups. And that was it. It was able to, and it's not a force fed that you have to talk all the time, and you just listen, and you don't compare yourself to what other people are going through or where they're at, and just to justify what you're doing. But when I started talking about it, when I started talking about it, it brought it home. And so it makes you think, well, where did I get this from? Why do I keep doing this? And I was looking at a movie the other day, and this is just to bring it home, where the movie has a line in it where the woman says that the guy was saying, well, I thought it would feel different. And she said, there's a story about a fish. There's a little fish that swam up to a big fish and said, what I'm looking for is the ocean. I want to get to the ocean. And the older fish said, the ocean? You're in the ocean. And he said, no, this is just water. I want the ocean. And that's the way I felt. I wanted something bigger. And so when you're never satisfied, you can't get past that urge and those endorphins or whatever, you know the words, because you're in that field of counseling where that rush that comes to you, and you're so used to being alone all the time, that only person that can feel that rush is me.
Wow.
And if I have to find another way to feel that rush, and God said, "Come here. I got a rush for you. I got a rush for you."
I love
so
that.
I get around you and Carol and Dave and the folks that Celebrate Recovery. That's why I miss you guys so much, is that rush was there for other reasons, the reasons that I just kept in, and it just brought it out. Wow. And, I realized that, I love this Terri more than I did the other Terri. And not that he was a bad person, but my priorities weren't in place. I still worked hard. I still got promotions. I still did what I needed to do. I think I'm a pretty good father. I'm a terrible Jesus, but but there was still that edge, and sometimes when things don't look like the way the world tells you that they're supposed to look, that you're supposed to be this pistol carrying, gambling person, playing the numbers, doing this. No, it's not that way. It can be just as bad as winning and thinking that that's the only thing that you have to do is to do that. And it's not. It's not. And when it affects you as a person from a priority standpoint, then it's time to stop, look in the mirror, and talk about it. And that's what Celebrate Recovery did, gave me that opportunity to do that. And I found that I was helping some other people because they were listening to me. And it was helping me that they were listening to me.
Right. I love that.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it's so good, man.
It's just my story.
And I love your heart. I mean, since you're giving up your anonymity, I'm just going to say going through a step study with you was a gift, and your vulnerability. And I think as I see the man I'm looking at right now, just knowing where you've come from and where you are now, you're a living miracle. And any transformation is a miracle. We want to be careful not to compare our struggles, but God has transformed you, and I love that you acknowledge that the struggle's still there, right? We're still human, and we still struggle, but now you have these tools, and God is rewiring your brain on how you see yourself, how you see God and others, and even your circumstances. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So Celebrate Recovery, then, having gone through this process of getting into a step study, going to open share groups, being a part of the Celebrate Recovery community, how is that impact? If you're talking to somebody that's listening, maybe they're in that place of maybe my problem is not that bad, or as long as I'm in control, I'm not going to get hurt. I'm not hurting anybody. What's the big deal? What would you say to somebody that's maybe on that side that you were when you were kind of at that low point? What encouragement would you give them, Terri?
Write things down. Write it down. Write down what you're doing, why you're doing it, and try to come up with what is your why? What is it that you're actually looking for in life? Find that purpose that you have. And I've always thought my purpose was I love coaching. I love being around. I didn't realize how much influence I had on some folks sometimes, especially the younger folks, about God has put me through all these experiences, hasn't taken me out, but made me hit rock bottom a couple of times. And then when I try to talk about it to folks to encourage them, I'm not talking from a place that I don't know or making it up. It's real, and you respect where other people are, and the ability to just listen to people, and then listen to yourself, and not try to fool yourself to thinking that it's something that it's not.
That's good, man.
It's a powerful piece, and you guys taught me that.
Yeah,
and it's I get so excited when I get around you guys that it's amazing.
Yeah, I love that. We come from different backgrounds, different family systems, but we all understand hurt, and we all understand and have a longing for a Savior that can meet us to fill that emptiness inside of us. And what an honor and much gratitude in my heart. You've helped me in my own recovery just by being you and working your recovery. And I just wanted you to hear that and just appreciate your heart. And thank you for sharing a part of your story with us here today, man.
If I can say one last thing, Rodney, is that we can't take ourselves too serious. And if we don't learn how to laugh at ourselves, sometimes it will help us get to the next level, because we have to be able to look back on things and go, wow, I was there. That was dumb. But you come back to it and go, but look where I am now. Look where I am now. And I know where I don't want to go, and I know who I don't want to be, but you can't be who you want to be if you're still doing the same things that put you in a position where you were.
That's such a good word.
You can't be who you want to be and who you used to be at the same time. And everybody should have a used to be story.
I love that.
That's my used to be story is I was that person that was
that's great.
Was to himself all the time. So thank you very much.
Such a good word. Well, I love you, brother. So good to see your smiling face, bro. And love your heart. And again, thanks for being with us here today, man. Well, I just want to talk to those joining us, maybe for the first time, and you're hearing something in this godly man. I just wish you could see his face as he's sharing the hope and the change in his life. Maybe there's something in Terri's story that resonated with your heart. You too can experience healing and freedom to be able to pursue things you never dreamed or imagined if you'll just be willing to accept this new way of living and invite Jesus and the body of Christ into that through Celebrate Recovery. Join us on this mission we call Recovery. Again, go to celebraterecovery.com if you'd like more information. Hey, thanks for being with us today. Hope you'll join us next time. Till then, God bless.